Hello, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Danny, and today, Great.com talks with Heather Morgan, Senior Vice President of Communications Marketing and Engagement at Children's Home Society of Florida. If you haven't heard of it yet, the CHS goal is to end the need for foster care by working with children and families before crises occur. Before we begin, remember, if you're new here to this podcast, press subscribe on YouTube or in a podcast app. Now, hi, Heather, and welcome.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, it's totally my pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you for taking time and talking to us. I want to begin today by learning about the history of Children's Home Society of Florida, how it all began, how it's been going so far.
Absolutely. So we are actually in a really exciting year. This is our 120th anniversary. So we have been serving Florida's children and families now for 120 years. And it started back in 1902. Some people may be familiar with the orphan trains. And this was a movement out of New York where children would board the trains. Some of them were homeless, others were abandoned. Some of them became orphaned when their parents died, maybe in farming accidents, from diseases, even childbirth. So they rode these trains throughout the country, hoping to find families. The last stop was in Jacksonville, Florida. And in 1902, about 400 kids stepped off the trains, and there was nobody there. Jacksonville at the time was just recently devastated by what's known as the Great Fire. So a lot of the charity dollars, the charity work, it was kind of at a standstill. So here we are, all these children who need a family. They need somebody to embrace them. And so thankfully, just as we have today, there were caring, dedicated community leaders who said, this is our community and these are our kids. We've got to do something. And so that's how Children's Home Society of Florida was founded. We were founded to care for these children, to provide them with a loving home, and ideally help them find their forever families through adoption. But what's a little lesser known is that not only were we founded to help children in need of families, but since day one, we were here to help families going through tough times. One of the first families we served, actually, it was a single father who had recently lost his wife, and he didn't know how to take care of his 4 children. And so he came to Children's Home Society of Florida for support. And for the past 120 years, that's what we've been doing. We've been helping families thrive. We've been keeping kids safe. And we have been on the forefront of really change and evolution to provide what children, families, and communities need. Back in the 30s, for instance, even back then, Children's Home Society of Florida saw that children who were suffering from dental pain, they had a tough time in school. And so we helped connect children with dental visits so that they would be able to focus in school. We began serving children and families in their own homes when children were struggling with some developmental delays. We were among the first organization to provide counseling in schools and to provide counseling to pregnant women. And it's only grown since then. We continue to offer a cradle to career approach because life is really hard. Some of us are very fortunate to have a strong support system, but not everybody is. But because of Children's Home Society of Florida, nobody has to face those tough times alone.
Oh, that's really, really great. And I'm really in awe of this history. It's wonderful, the work that you've been doing so far. And one thing that got me curious is about the challenges that the communities you're serving face, because you brought to us like this over 100 years ago, how things began, but how are things right now in Florida?
So Florida is often known as the Sunshine State. Beautiful tourist destination, and we are an amazing state filled with amazing, amazing people. There's also, just like everywhere else, there's struggles. Right now, 1 in 5 children is living below the poverty line, and that's really tough. when you think about what that means just statistically, simply because of that, these children are 3 times more likely to experience a mental health challenge. They're 3 times more likely to experience abuse. They're 7 times more likely to experience neglect, and they're 5 times more likely to drop out of high school. And what that means is that cycle continues. And so with Children's Home Society of Florida, we're able to bring partners together in our communities and address these issues. Because when you have that cycle, it doesn't just affect that single child and family. It affects the neighborhood, it affects the community, it affects the businesses. And so when we all come together, not only are we keeping more kids safe, we're keeping families intact, strengthening families, we're also building Florida's economy. Because when we can keep those kids in school, that's our talent of tomorrow. But even more than that, if you are a parent and you're a working parent, your employer needs you. Well, so do your kids. And so if you are struggling financially and you have to decide, okay, am I going to pay the electric bill today, or do I have a chance to get groceries? The next day you might go to work hungry. So you're not going to perform at your best. Or if your child is sick and you can't afford to take them to the doctor or afford childcare, you're not going to be able to go to work. You're not going to be able to focus. And so we're able to address those not just for the child, but for the entire family, so that now employers have a dedicated workforce because Children's Home Society of Florida is here. And together with our partners in the community, including businesses, we are able to help children access on-site healthcare and mental health care through our community partnership schools. We're able to connect families to resources for job training, for nutrition, for housing stability through many of our programs. And one of the amazing things, I mentioned we're cradle to career. We have a family that we served in one of our programs. It's called Healthy Families. And this is an early childhood program. And the goal is to empower families to become their child's first teacher, help those children meet key milestones, make sure they're safe, that they're prepared for kindergarten, because 80% of that child's brain is developed by age 3, 90% by age 5. So when we get in there early, that child has a better start. Well, we also know that parents have goals too. And so we have one family in particular that we're working with them, helping them build that foundation for their child. And we ask Mom, well, what are your goals? What do you want to do? And she loved doing nails, loved it, was very skilled at it. So we were able to connect her with resources so that she could attend technical school, so that she could become a certified nail technician. And eventually, during the time that we were working with her, she opened up her own business. And so it shows you the impact and the power that when you have a little bit of support, when people believe in you, when your community wants to see you succeed, my goodness, the results are amazing. It gives me goosebumps just thinking about that single family. And I tell you what, we serve 80,000 kids and family members every single year. And so that's what we can do for 80,000 individuals every year.
Wow, that's so incredible. I keep multiplying these goosebumps in my head right now. It's really awesome. Now, let's just learn a little bit more about the programs and services that you offer. What are the primary ones that you can offer to support children and families?
Sure. We have, again, it's a cradle to career approach, because no matter what stage in life you are, you're going to face hard times, and you don't have to be alone. So we have early childhood services, and these are really our services that focus on supporting families with children ages 0 to 5. A lot of them start prenatally. Many of the families that we serve are either living below the poverty line, or they don't have a strong support system. Some of them may have been survivors of an abusive situation themselves, either as children or adults, and they want only the very best for their kids. And so these families actually invite us into their homes. And so that's where they're most comfortable. That's where they're raising their children. And at CHS, we see strengths and we see potential. And so using this approach, we're able to build upon the parents' strengths. We're able to help them understand how you use simple household items, an empty paper towel roll and some beans, for example, and you can create developmental toys for your children. So it's a healthy bonding activity and it helps your child meet milestones. We teach about the importance of reading together, and we help connect parents to resources in the community, because the great thing about CHS is that we know we can't do it alone. There are so many wonderful organizations, businesses, universities, healthcare systems within each of our communities. And so at CHS, we call ourselves the convener, because we bring all of these amazing resources together. We break through the red tape, we break through the silos so that families can access those services. And in our early childhood programs, we have a near 100% success rate where children remain safe at home with their families and never enter foster care. And that's tremendous. We also have significant success with helping children meet their milestones, cognitive, emotional, educational, so that they're ready to enter kindergarten, ready to learn. Almost half of Florida's kindergartners enter kindergarten not ready to learn, not on track. But the children who go through our programs are meeting those milestones so that they're ready to move forward. We also offer an array of counseling and mental health services. As I mentioned before, children who live below the poverty line, they're 3 times more likely to struggle with a mental health challenge. Well, compound what our world just went through over the past 3 years with the COVID-19 pandemic, and you have heightened anxiety, heightened depression, really heightened fear, and kids feel that. But our services aren't only for kids, it's children, teens, adults, families, and our counseling approaches are unique because just like everything else, we meet you where you are, where you're comfortable. That might be online, it might be in your home, it might be in a park. Wherever you're most comfortable, that's where we're going to be. And we build our services so that we can maintain that connection. We have a counselor who recently told me that one of his greatest successes was a young man, and the first thing that he said during their first session was, "I know it's not going to work. I've done this before, and it's not going to work." And the counselor said, "Okay, well, we're together. Let's play some Uno." So they started playing Uno, and they began building that relationship. And after a couple of years, that young man went back to his counselor and he said, "I never thought I would see the light, and you showed me the light." And that's the testament of the passion of the people who are serving our communities with Children's Home Society of Florida. In addition to those services, we also serve children and families who are involved in the child welfare system. We provide support and resources to families who are working to get their kids back. 75% of children are actually in the foster care system because of issues deemed neglect. That may mean that perhaps there wasn't proper medical care, or perhaps families didn't know where to access some of the services that their children needed. And so we're able to help those families overcome the challenges that led to involvement in the foster care system and safely bring their kids back home. We also understand that sometimes that's not always possible. And so we work with families to welcome those kids home through adoption as well. So we're committed to working with families and children, always keeping the child's best interest at heart throughout the process. We also have an array of what we call community schools, primarily community partnership schools. Now, this is a relatively new initiative, given we're 120 years old, as we're about a decade into this. And this is a unique model that CHS developed in partnership with our strategic partners over at the University of Central Florida. And we founded it along with Orange County Public Schools. And through this initiative, we bring together 4 core partners: a nonprofit, which would be CHS, a university, a school system, and a healthcare provider. And together, we bring resources into the school so that children and families have access to what they need, where they need it, where they're most comfortable. The first school that we piloted this at, it's called Evans High School. It's in the heart of the Pine Hills community in Orlando. And at the time, this community had one of the highest rates of calls to the Florida Child Abuse Hotline. This community was also very heavy in crime. There were a lot of individuals and families living below the poverty line. But amidst all of those struggles, this community is filled with potential. CHS, UCF, and Orange County Public Schools saw that potential, and we went to work. And so we developed this community partnership school. We asked the community, we asked the families, the students, the teachers, the faith community, tell us what your challenges are. What are your barriers? Well, we learned that for those high schoolers, the biggest barrier to education was that they were hungry. And so immediately we partnered with the local food bank and we started an on-campus food pantry for those kids. Through generous donors, we were able to start and fill snack cabinets. We began an after-school tutoring initiative where when you came to tutoring, you also got a hot meal. And so it's by listening to the community and partnering with the community that we're able to see transformative results. Because now, 10 years later, graduation rates at that school are near 100%. We have significantly reduced disciplinary issues. Parental involvement has greatly increased, and even the crime surrounding the area has decreased. And again, it's because that community is filled with potential. Those kids are strong, they're determined, they're resilient, their families are strong, and they're motivated to help their kids. And all they needed was a little bit of community support to help them realize how much they can achieve. And then that kind of goes in line with our fifth area of service, which is mentoring, outreach, and job training. We have several mentoring programs that allow children and teens to be paired with adult role models. And then we also have some programs where students may have dropped out of school, or maybe they're pursuing their GED, and they need some job training. They need help finding employment. And so we're able to help connect those students with the resources. We're able to help them understand this is how you prepare for a job interview. This is how you secure that job interview. This is how you act while you're at work so that you can continue to maintain that employment. Because everything we do is about building that potential of children and families, because that is going to create a stronger community, stronger workforce, and a stronger Florida, which is what we all want.
How incredible and how beautiful is all of this stories that you shared and the services that you provide. I'm really, really in awe and impressed with all of this. It's really has been a long road, and I think you've picked up so much from the communities, right? It's really important to hear when you say this. It comes from the demands, the inputs from the community, what they need. It's not from what we can offer only. And one other thing that comes to me now, it's you mentioned these partnerships that you create, right? The need for that to keep the structure functioning. But with that, I need to ask you, if our listeners right now maybe that are not able to volunteer or join forces physically with you, how can they help you keep going? How can they donate to keep those things moving?
Absolutely. We always need community support. And so you can easily donate on our website at chsfl.org. There's a donate button right at the top. And you can also go directly at chsfl.org/donate. In addition to cash contributions, which help our services run, we cannot do what we're doing without the generous financial support of our community and friends. There are other ways to support as well. Our programs also need supplies to serve our kids. our kids and families need supplies so they can continue to thrive. So our website has all of that information as well. Anyone across the globe can be part of transforming the future for children, and you can learn more at chsfl.org.
Thank you so much, Heather, for joining us today. This was a great talk.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share about the amazing work that's being done and all of the good that's possible when our communities come together and partner with us at Children's Home Society of Florida.
It was honestly my pleasure. And for everybody listening, you can access easily their website on the description of this episode. You're going to find a link in there. So if you have the chance, if you have the means, please go there, find out more, and donate if you can. And also, thank you so much for listening. And remember, if you enjoyed the episode, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app, because that shows the algorithms that this is an important conversation and more people can learn about the importance of the Children's Home Society of Florida. Go check their website, donate if you can, and I see you at the next episode.